This happens right before a beginner wholesaler quits wholesaling real estate. Wait, stop. Are you considering quitting wholesale real estate? Watch this video all the way till the end, and hopefully I can convince you, or I can suggest different ways that you can pivot in your business in order to find more success in wholesaling real estate. What's up, YouTube? Biz Matthew here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the things that happens right before a beginner wholesaler quits wholesaling real estate. Now, this is what I commonly see in people that I talk with, the comments down below. I'm just hearing people's stories of them leaving the industry and just talk about my own experience. There have been times throughout my entrepreneurship journey where I just wanted to quit entrepreneurship in general. And so these are some of the things that I experienced right before I was considering quitting and maybe just going to a 9-to-5 job, just using the degree I got from college, and how I shifted my mind back to my entrepreneurship journey. Before we go on, be sure to like this video, subscribe down below, and comment down below if you're considering actually quitting wholesaling, or maybe you're pivoting to flipping or rental properties or something else in entrepreneurship, or maybe you're going back to the 9-to-5 job, which is not a bad thing. All right, so these are the top 3 things I notice in people right before they quit wholesaling real estate, especially beginners. So number 1, they experience great disappointment. Let's say you're wholesaling real estate and you've been calling, maybe you've been sending postcards, and it's been 3-4 months. You actually got a real lead, a person who is not only willing to talk to you, but they are actually motivated to sell, right? They hit all the pillars of motivation, right? They have a property that needs work done on the property. They even gave you a good price under market value that you can actually negotiate a little bit lower with. And on top of that, they are motivated to sell, like for whatever reason. Maybe they're a tired landlord, or they're going through a pre-foreclosure, whatever the reason is just checking off all the boxes. And so you're doing all the paperwork, you sending it to the title company, you talk to cash buyers, they seem interested in it, and then just all of a sudden it just falls, it just fails. This deal becomes dead. Maybe the seller stopped texting you, maybe the seller said they went with another investor, maybe there's a huge title issue and you can't close on this deal. Whatever the experience is, this is very discouraging, especially for a beginner wholesaler trying to get their first deal. And after 3-4 months of cold calling people and thinking they have leads, and they finally got a good lead and they weren't able to close, that can make this person think and reconsider their choices more and more. Like, should I really be wholesaling real estate? Like, this was the perfect scenario and it didn't work out for me. So that's a huge mental toll on them. And so what are some ways that wholesalers and beginner wholesalers can get themselves out of that rut? And I think one of the main things is that when beginner wholesalers get that good lead is that they ignore all other leads, right? They ignore all other marketing, sending out marketing or cold calling other leads. And so that's what breaks them down. And so if you're a beginner wholesaler, if you get this good lead, don't count on it until you have money in the bank, right? So continue on talking to other people, sending out your postcards, whatever you have to do in your business, so you won't ignore everything else and just concentrate on one lead. So that's the first thing that I noticed right before a beginner wholesaler quits wholesaling, is that they experience great disappointment. There's huge mental toil around that. They start to reconsider their decision and they stop concentrating on other leads. And so the second point, what I see a lot of wholesalers do before they quit is that they lay off on the marketing, right? And so going back to the first example, let's say you do get that good lead, you kind of stop marketing to other sellers. So that's one thing. And even with experienced wholesalers, people who've been getting multiple deals a month, I noticed that right before they quit, they really lay low on the marketing. They convince themselves that there's another marketing technique that's cheaper, or they convince themselves that this is just too expensive. And so they kind of reduce their marketing spend. They reduce what they were doing before that was working for some reason. And I noticed that a lot of wholesalers do this right before their business slowed down and they quit. Especially with beginners with marketing, they're just not patient enough to see the process, right? Let's say you are doing postcards and you've been doing it 2-3 months. That's a good $3,000-$4,000 at least in order to get a deal. And when you don't have anything after $4,000, that can be devastating, right? Especially to your bank account and to your your motivation. And so that's why I always suggest beginners start with a lower cost marketing technique so they won't have to feel that burden. So they don't have to slow down their marketing even after 2-3 months, because what you're sending out one day, you probably won't get until like 3, 4, or 5 months down the road. And so beginner wholesalers especially have to consider that. And so the last thing I want to talk about, what happens right before a wholesaler quits wholesaling, is that they are not mentally prepared for the ups and downs of real estate. And you see it in today's market, right? You see high home prices, you just see these fluctuations happening in the market, and you have to have a calm and steady mental health in order to survive the ups and downs of everything, right? Because there are times, like even in my business, I'm going through a drought right now where I haven't gotten deals in the past few months. I do have one property under contract, but there's been another property that I had under contract and I lost out of. I'm going to talk about it in my next video. But yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to be mentally prepared for that, right? And so how you mentally prepare for the ups and downs is that, one, is that you can't control the ups and downs sometimes, right? You can't control how a seller reacts to something or just the economy at large. But what you can control is yourself and how you respond to something, and you can control what you do. So by you being consistent with your marketing, that puts in your mind consistency. Even though everything else is inconsistent, right? Sellers are being random and they confuse you, but at least you're doing something consistently that you can hold on to and say, okay, at least this is consistent in my life. And so I'm just going to be calm and steady in this inconsistent way or this confusion right here. So make sure what you can do to stay consistent, you keep consistent. The other thing is that a lot of times, even for big wholesalers, they can get this big, huge wholesale deal, and then 3-4 months go down the road and they haven't gotten any deals, right? And so you have to be mentally prepared for that you need to weather that storm, weather that drought. And that's why I'm going back to consistency. Like, if you're consistent, at least you're going to get, a little singles or doubles here and there. It may not be like that big deal, but you can stay consistent in your marketing and whatnot. And that's the other thing. And that's something that I see in a lot of beginner wholesalers who get a deal early on, especially if it's a big deal. So let's say you're a wholesaler and you get like a $40,000 wholesale deal after a month of trying, right? And then you go 6 months and you have nothing. That's very discouraging. Sometimes I feel like it's not really that beneficial for people to get a huge deal after a month when they just started wholesaling, because I think that puts them in this mindset like, okay, these things that I were doing keep on getting me $60,000 deals, when it just happened by fate that you were able to be at the right place at the right time, right? But there are systems, there are processes that you have to do in your business in order to consistently get deals, right? And so you may be trying to do what you did before when in reality that doesn't work in the long term, right? So just making sure you're consistent in all those areas of your life. All right, you all, I hope you all enjoyed this video on different things that I see a lot of beginner wholesalers and wholesalers in general do right before they quit, and different ways that you can alleviate those struggles and shift your focus back on wholesaling, back on real estate investing. All right, you all, make sure you like this video, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll talk to you all later.